Imagine waking up one day, only to find your most private moments shared with the whole school, and the people you trusted turning against you. This is Amara's story, a raw, emotional journey through betrayal, bullying, and the fight to reclaim her voice. If you want to hear a story that hits hard and speaks truth, stay with us. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because stories like these need to be heard. It started with a whisper, a quick glance, a sudden laugh, then silence. 16-year-old Amara Johnson walked through the hallway of Millbrook High like a ghost present, but unseen. Or worse, seen in all the wrong ways. It had been 2 days since everything changed. 2 days since her world collapsed under the weight of a single click. The locker door creaked as she opened it. She kept her eyes low, trying to ignore the phone screens turned toward her, the muffled laughter, the side comments dripping in cruelty. "There she is," someone said. "Miss Strip Show." Another voice, crueler. "Smile, Amara. You're already famous." She didn't respond. She couldn't. The knot in her stomach had turned solid, heavy like stone. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached into her locker, trying to act normal. But her heart was pounding so loud it echoed in her ears. It had been a normal day. Gym class. Changing in the locker room. She remembered laughing with her friend Vanessa, tying her hair back, unaware of the eyes watching, the phone hidden in someone's jacket. She didn't even know the photo had been taken, but someone had snapped it, posted it, shared it, and now her body, vulnerable, exposed, was plastered across private group chats, secret Instagram stories, and possibly even worse. She tried to avoid looking, but the screenshots found their way to her no matter what. Captions like, "She wanted attention, so here it is," or "Next OnlyFans star?" Her phone had exploded that night with messages. Half were cruel. The rest were boys from school, strangers and classmates alike, pretending to check in while really digging for more. First, she didn't understand. Then she saw the image, the blur of skin. Her face turned slightly away, her expression caught between a laugh and innocence. Everything inside her dropped. She hadn't been naked, but it didn't matter. It was enough. Enough to destroy her. In second period, she sat in the back of the classroom, pressed against the wall, trying to disappear. Her math teacher, Mr. Bennett, wrote equations on the board, oblivious to the quiet storm circling his room. 3 desks over, a girl named Brooke smirked. One of the ringleaders. Rich, pretty, cruel in the way girls with power often were. Brooke leaned toward her friend Gia and whispered something. They both looked at Amara and laughed under their breath. Amara's cheeks burned. Her throat tightened. She focused on her notebook, even though her mind was blank. She hadn't told her mom. What could she say? That she'd been violated? That someone had stolen her privacy and used it as entertainment? Would her mom blame her? Would she be angry she hadn't spoken sooner? Amara didn't know, so she stayed silent. Even the teachers seemed to sense something was wrong. The way they looked at her. Quick, uncomfortable glances. Like they knew but didn't want to get involved. Lunch was the worst. She walked into the cafeteria and felt the shift in air. Like every conversation dipped when she entered. Some students pretended not to notice. Others watched openly. She scanned the room for Vanessa. She wasn't there. Vanessa hadn't returned her texts either. Not since the photo leaked. Amara's only friend had disappeared, like she was guilty by association. That hurt even more than the laughter. The silence of someone who used to know you. Amara grabbed a tray she wouldn't eat from and sat near the end of a long table, alone. Her hoodie was pulled low over her face, but it wasn't enough. Brooke and her group passed by her table slowly. "Nice hoodie, Amara." "Hiding something?" Brooke asked, flipping her glossy hair. Gia chimed in. "She should be proud. Most views we've ever had." Another girl added, "Bet she's got a whole portfolio now." They laughed. Amara kept her eyes down. She wanted to vanish, fold into herself, evaporate. She was 16, her whole life ahead of her, and yet it felt like it had already ended. When the final bell rang, Amara didn't go home. She walked, past the gas station, past the old train tracks, through the trees behind the school where no one followed. She found her usual spot, a flat rock near a bend in the creek. It had always been her thinking place, a place where she could just breathe. Here she could cry, alone, without eyes, without judgment. She sat down, clutching her phone like it might somehow make things right. One notification blinked. Another comment. Another cruel emoji under the post someone else had stolen from her. She couldn't take it anymore. Her fingers trembled as she deleted the app. Then another. Then another. She stared at her phone, now silent and clean. But it was too late. The damage was done. And she knew it. People don't forget, not in a small town. Not when the internet is forever. The wind picked up. The branches above her swayed. She listened to the rustle of leaves like a whisper from the world telling her, breathe. She wanted to scream, to tell someone, but every time she pictured it, she froze. No one would believe her. Or worse, they'd say she asked for it. Wasn't that how it always went? Girls like Brooke would smile, lie, twist it all, say it was a joke, that Amara overreacted, that she was just looking for attention. And the school would do nothing, because girls like Amara, quiet, poor, black, didn't get justice. They got silence. But as she sat there, staring at the rippling water, something shifted inside her. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something smaller. A spark. A tiny voice that whispered, "This isn't your fault." She repeated it aloud, voice shaky. "This isn't my fault." She said it again. "This is not my fault." The tears came again, but they weren't like before. They weren't surrender. They were survival. Amara wiped her face and stood. She wasn't ready to fight. Not yet. But she was done hiding. Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, her face turned to the wall, her back to the soft glow of her phone charging on the nightstand. Outside, the wind rattled the branches against her window. Inside, her thoughts swirled like a storm. The photo was still out there. Even if she deleted every app, even if she shut down every account, it didn't matter. People had saved it, passed it on, made copies. She wondered how many people had looked at her, truly looked at her, and now couldn't see anything but that one image. 1 second, one click had stolen everything. Her childhood, her privacy, her peace. A soft knock at her door broke the silence. "Amara?" Her mom's voice was gentle, hesitant. "Are you okay in there, baby?" Amara didn't answer right away. She didn't want to lie, but she didn't want to tell the truth either. It was too ugly, too much. "I'm okay," she finally said, her voice low. The door creaked open, and her mom stepped inside, wearing her old robe, worry etched across her tired face. She sat at the edge of the bed, reaching out to gently touch Amara's shoulder. "You sure? You've been real quiet the last few days. Not eating. Not talking." Amara's throat tightened. Her mom was a nurse. She worked long nights and came home exhausted. Amara hated adding to her worries. "I'm just tired. School stuff," she mumbled. Her mom exhaled slowly. "Well, if something's going on, anything at all, you can tell me. I won't get mad. I promise." Amara wanted to believe her. She wanted to spill everything, to hand her pain to someone who could carry it with her. But the words caught. What if her mom saw the photo? What if she thought it was Amara's fault? So she nodded, lying again. "I'll be okay." Her mom kissed her forehead and stood up. "All right, baby. Just remember, I'm here. Okay? Always." And then she was gone. The room felt colder after she left. The next day at school was no better. She kept her hoodie up, her headphones in, her eyes down. A silent routine of survival. But it was like blood in the water. They could sense her fear. In English class, a folded piece of paper slid onto her desk. She didn't want to open it, but curiosity won. She unfolded it slowly. A crudely drawn cartoon of her, stick figure style. Naked, crying, with boys pointing and laughing around her. One speech bubble read, "Why are you crying now? You loved the attention." Her breath hitched. She crumpled the paper and shoved it deep into her backpack. Brooke sat 2 rows behind her. Amara didn't even need to look to know who sent it. After class, she waited for the room to clear before going to her locker. But when she opened it, something fell out. Printed photo. The photo. Someone had printed it out and taped it inside her locker. The school hallway spun for a moment. Amara slammed the locker shut, breathing hard. That was the moment she broke. She turned on her heel and walked, past the classrooms, past the main office, all the way to the nurse's station. She stood in front of the receptionist, voice trembling. "I don't feel well. Can I go home?" The nurse took one look at her and nodded. Her mom picked her up within 15 minutes. Neither of them said much on the drive home. But in the car, something shifted. "Amara," her mom finally said, her voice calm but firm. "You need to tell me what's going on." "I can't," Amara whispered. "Yes, you can." Amara looked out the window. "It's a photo," she said slowly, barely able to say the words. "Someone took it of me in the locker room. I didn't know. And now everyone's seen it." Her mom's hands clenched the steering wheel. "What kind of photo?" Amara hesitated. "Not completely naked, but close. I was changing." Silence. Her mom pulled the car over and parked. She turned to face her daughter fully, eyes fierce and shining. "Baby, that's illegal. That's not just bullying. That's a crime." Amara felt something loosen in her chest. "I didn't know what to do." "You did nothing wrong," her mom said. "And we're not letting them get away with this." That afternoon, they went straight to the school. Principal Moore greeted them with stiff professionalism. Amara could feel the discomfort in the way he shifted in his seat, how he avoided eye contact. "We're aware of a situation involving a student's privacy," he said, lacing his fingers. "But unfortunately, given the nature of social media, it's hard to control the spread of content once it's out there." Her mom's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying you can't do anything?" "We're investigating, of course. Someone filmed my daughter while she was changing, on school property, and then shared it. That's a felony." Moore adjusted his tie. "We take these matters seriously. But identifying who took the photo, she knows who's behind it," her mom interrupted. "A group of girls have been harassing her nonstop. You have cameras in the halls. You have logs. You know who had access." Moore leaned back. "We'll continue our investigation." Amara watched the conversation like it wasn't about her, like she wasn't even there, just a problem being passed around. Her mom stood. "Fine. Then I'm going to the police." Moore's expression changed at that. "Let's not escalate." But it was too late. Amara's mom meant every word. At home that night, Amara sat at the kitchen table, her schoolbooks untouched. She stared at her phone. Notifications still buzzed, even though she'd logged out of everything. But now she felt something else. Not peace, but a spark of control. Her mom was in her corner. And now the school was on notice. She didn't know how this would end. But for the first time in days, she wasn't drowning alone. Amara didn't go to school the next day. Her mom wouldn't let her. "You're not walking into that building until someone starts doing their job. I've already spoken to the police. You're staying here until we get answers." Amara sat curled up on the living room couch, wrapped in a blanket like a shell. The laptop sat untouched on the coffee table. She didn't feel like doing anything. But underneath the numbness, something new stirred, something sharper than fear. It was rage, real white-hot, coiled in her chest like a spring. She wasn't just humiliated anymore. She was tired of the shame, of the whispers, of pretending she could just ignore it all and be okay. She couldn't. She wasn't. And for once, she didn't want to hide that. She thought about the locker room again. The flash of the phone. Brooke's face, smirking. That fake sweetness dripping from her voice. "You should be flattered, Amara. At least someone's paying attention to you." And the others, Lacey, Jess, and those background girls who giggled at every cruel comment like it was a punchline. Even some of the boys. Even teachers who saw her crying in the hallway and kept walking like she was invisible. Her fingers clenched around the blanket. She was done being invisible. Her mom came back into the room, her voice low but firm. "They're taking it seriously now. An officer's going to come talk to us tomorrow morning. And the school's getting a formal complaint. Amara didn't say anything. She stared straight ahead, eyes dry. For once, she wasn't crying. Later that evening, her phone buzzed. She almost didn't pick it up, but curiosity tugged at her. It was from Mia, one of the few people who used to sit with her in the early days of freshman year. They drifted apart, not out of drama, just time and the gravitational pull of different friend groups. Mia, hey, I just saw what happened. I'm really sorry. You didn't deserve any of that. I believe you. Amara stared at the message. Her throat tightened. She typed back slowly. Amara, thanks. It means more than you think. The typing bubble popped back up immediately. Mia, I wanted to say something earlier. I didn't know how. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Amara didn't reply right away, but something softened inside her. Maybe she wasn't completely alone. The next day, the police arrived. A woman officer with kind eyes and a folder full of paperwork. She sat with Amara and her mom at the dining table. I want you to understand, the officer said carefully. What those girls did wasn't just bullying. It's potentially a criminal offense. Taking and sharing photos of someone without consent, especially in a private place like a locker room, that's serious. If they're minors, it'll be handled differently. But it's not going away. Amara swallowed. Will I have to go to court? Maybe, but we'll be with you every step. And this starts with the school doing their part. The word justice didn't feel real yet, but it was enough to feel seen. When she returned to school 2 days later, the hallway felt different. Some kids stared at her. Some whispered, but others nodded. A few smiled in a quiet, nervous kind of way. Brooke and her friends weren't in school that day. Rumors said they'd been suspended pending investigation. Someone had leaked the group chat where they'd planned the whole thing. The screenshots were brutal. Lines about getting the perfect shot, mocking Amara's body, daring each other to take worse pictures next time. Her stomach turned when she read them, but she was also relieved. It wasn't just her word against theirs anymore. There was proof. During lunch, Mia came to sit next to her. So did another girl named Erin from her English class. No big speeches. No dramatic apologies. Just presence. And presence was enough. Later that afternoon, the principal called her into the office. He cleared his throat, avoided her eyes. Amara, I want to say, on behalf of the school, I'm sorry for what you've been through. We should have acted sooner. We've failed you in that. Amara said nothing. She didn't need his apology. She needed action. We'll be reviewing our harassment policies. We've reached out to the district. There's going to be training for the staff. And we're offering you counseling sessions free of charge. Amara nodded slowly. She didn't trust it yet. But it was a start. That night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her body still felt heavy. She still flinched every time she walked past the locker room. She still hated the idea of anyone seeing her differently. But a small voice in the back of her mind whispered something she hadn't heard in weeks. You're surviving. And soon you'll be more than that. The first time Amara stepped back into the locker room, it felt like walking through a memory she wanted to burn. Everything looked the same. The rows of blue lockers, the flickering fluorescent light overhead, the benches where the girls used to sit laughing too loud. Her feet moved slow, like the tile floor might swallow her whole. But she wasn't alone this time. Coach Torres stood nearby, arms crossed, watching the room with a quiet alertness. If you want to leave, you can, she said gently. You don't have to prove anything. Amara shook her head. I need to do this. It was gym class, and for the first time in weeks, she was going to change in the same place she had once been humiliated. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to reclaim it. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened her locker. Her new gym shirt slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor. For a moment, her heart raced, expecting laughter behind her. But there was only silence. And then a voice, soft but steady. You're brave, you know? Amara turned. It was Erin. She stood at the next row of lockers, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Her eyes didn't carry pity, just quiet respect. I'm really sorry I didn't say anything before, Aaron continued. When those girls were being awful. I saw stuff, I knew it was wrong. I didn't think it was my place. It's okay, Amara said. But then, after a beat, she added, actually, it's not. But I get it. Aaron nodded slowly. I'm trying to do better. Gym passed in a blur. Amara didn't remember the exercises or the coach's instructions. She just remembered the way no one laughed. No one stared. And for the first time, she didn't feel like prey in a shark tank. At home that evening, her mom handed her a letter from the school district. Amara unfolded it with trembling hands. To the family of Amara Jones. Following the recent investigation, we confirm that the students involved in the locker room incident have been suspended for 20 days and removed from all extracurricular activities for the remainder of the semester. Further action may be taken depending on ongoing legal proceedings. We are deeply sorry for the harm caused and are implementing mandatory digital safety training, consent education, and anti-bullying workshops across all grade levels. It wasn't enough, not really. But it was something. The first crack in a wall that had stood too long. A few days later, her mom drove her to the courthouse for a closed hearing. It wasn't a trial. Just a meeting with a family court officer, the girl's parents, and a few lawyers. Brooke sat across the table. She looked smaller than Amara remembered. Her hair tied back tightly, face pale, fingers nervously picking at her jeans. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, Brooke's voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was just messing around. It was supposed to be funny. Amara sat still, letting the words hang. She thought about all the nights she cried alone in her room. The hours she stared at the ceiling, wondering if she'd ever feel normal again. The fear of going to school. The nausea. The silence. She leaned forward, her voice clear. You didn't care how far it went. You didn't care about me at all. Brooke's eyes filled with tears. But Amara didn't. After the hearing, they told her that the girls would be put on juvenile probation and required to complete community service and counseling. Their phones had been confiscated. Their parents fined. As Amara left the courthouse, the sun hit her face. Felt warmer than it had in weeks. She still wasn't okay. Not fully. But she was healing. At school, the whispers faded slowly. Some kids still looked at her with that mix of curiosity and unease, but others greeted her with cautious friendliness. One morning, a boy from her history class handed her a folded note when the teacher wasn't looking. They didn't break you. That's kind of amazing. She smiled a little. She didn't know his name, but that didn't matter. After school, she walked to the counselor's office for her second session. Mrs. Patel greeted her with that calm voice and steady presence that made the room feel safe. How's your breathing today? She asked. Amara shrugged. Better. That's something. They talked for 40 minutes. About shame. About rage. About how hard it was to walk down hallways that once felt like home and now felt like battlegrounds. You're allowed to be angry, Mrs. Patel said. Anger isn't wrong. It's fuel. Just make sure you're the one steering. Amara left the office with a journal clutched in her hands. A new tool Mrs. Patel suggested. Write everything, she said. Even the ugly stuff. Especially the ugly stuff. That night, Amara sat at her desk by the window, opened the journal and started to write. She wrote about Brooke. About the humiliation. About how it felt to be seen, violated, judged. She wrote about the silence that followed and the voices that slowly began to break through it. She wrote until her hand cramped and her eyes blurred. Then she closed the journal and hugged it to her chest. It didn't fix anything, but it helped. The days that followed were a strange mixture of relief and heaviness for Amara. The public apology from the school principal had stirred whispers through the hallways. Some quiet, some harsh. But for the first time since the photos leaked, Amara felt a small thread of control weaving its way through her fractured world. She wasn't naive. She knew some of the girls still glared at her when they passed. She saw the flickers of cruel smiles behind her back. And sometimes, late at night, the images that had been posted online replayed in her mind like a cruel movie on loop. But now she had the strength to look away from the screen. She had moments, brief, fragile ones, when she could breathe without the weight crushing her chest. One afternoon, as the final bell rang, Amara found herself sitting alone in the empty library. She had avoided the usual crowded hallways and noisy cafeteria. The library was her refuge, a place where the world seemed softer, quieter. She flipped through the pages of her journal, reading the words she had poured onto paper. Each sentence was a scar and a salve. They told the story of a girl who had been stripped bare and was slowly learning how to dress her wounds. "Hey!" A voice startled her. She looked up. It was Marcus, a boy from her math class. He was carrying a stack of books and looked a little nervous. "I saw you in the gym the other day. You were really brave," he said, setting the books down on the table. Amara nodded, unsure what to say. "I'm sorry about what those girls did. No one deserves that." "Thanks," she whispered. They sat together, an easy silence stretching between them. Over the next few weeks, Marcus and Amara grew into a quiet friendship. He wasn't the type to parade around being a hero. He listened more than he talked and never pressed her to share more than she wanted. One evening, as Amara walked home, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Marcus. "If you ever want to talk, or just hang out, I'm around." She smiled. Small gestures like this meant more than anyone could see. But even with new support, some days were still brutal. One morning, Amara found a note slipped into her locker. "Everyone knows what you did. You're nothing but a joke." Her stomach twisted. She wanted to tear it up, but instead, she folded it carefully and tucked it into her journal. She remembered what Mrs. Patel said, that anger was fuel, that it was okay to feel everything as long as she was steering. So she steered herself into the school's new digital safety workshop. The room was filled with students and a visiting counselor who talked about privacy, consent, and the dangers of sharing images without permission. When the counselor asked if anyone had a story to share, Amara's hand trembled, but she raised it. She spoke slowly, her voice cracking at first but growing stronger. "This happened to me. Pictures were shared without my permission. It ruined everything. My friends, my trust, my safety." The room was silent. Afterwards, several students came up to her quietly, offering apologies or support. For the first time, Amara felt less alone. At home, her mom noticed the change too. "You're stronger than I ever knew," she said, wrapping Amara in a hug. Amara nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "I'm still scared, but I'm fighting." As the semester wore on, the school tightened its policies. Cameras were installed in common areas, stricter punishments enforced, and more programs rolled out to educate students on respect and boundaries. Amara volunteered to speak at a school assembly, telling her story to dozens of faces. She didn't smile or pretend it was easy. She just told the truth. And for that moment, she reclaimed a part of herself. The tension in the hallways didn't disappear overnight. Even after the principal's speech and the counselor's visits, the shadows of whispers followed Amara like a persistent storm cloud. Some students avoided her completely, while others barely hid their smirks. At school, Marcus stayed close, a quiet pillar of support, but Amara knew he wasn't a shield against everything. One afternoon, after math class, she found a group of girls waiting near her locker. Her heart thudded. She tried to slip past, but they blocked her way. "Hey, freak," one said, voice low and sharp. "Guess you really thought you were special, huh?" Another laughed, "Posting your face everywhere. It's like you wanted this." Amara's throat tightened. She clenched her fists but stayed silent, her mind racing for an escape. The first girl stepped forward, shoving Amara's books to the floor. "You think people actually like you?" A crowd gathered quickly, drawn by the commotion. Then Marcus appeared, standing beside Amara. His voice was calm but firm. "Back off." The girls sneered but backed away, muttering under their breath. Marcus helped Amara pick up her books. "You okay?" Yeah." But Amara's hands trembled. That night, in her room, Amara stared at the ceiling. The weight of every insult, every stolen moment of peace, pressed down on her. Her mom knocked gently. "You awake?" "Yeah," Amara whispered. Her mom sat beside her. "You're not alone, you know." I'm here. We're going to get through this. Tears escaped. It just feels like it'll never end. Her mom wiped the tears away. You're stronger than this. Stronger than them. The next day, Amara decided to meet with the school counselor again. She talked about the bullying, the fear, the loneliness. The counselor listened, nodding. It's going to be a long road, Amara. But every step you take is a step toward healing. Amara left feeling a little lighter. Over the next few weeks, she focused on small victories. Answering a question in class, smiling at Marcus, ignoring a nasty comment. Slowly, the storm began to clear. One afternoon, Marcus handed her a folded note. Inside it said, "Meet me at the park after school. I want to show you something." Curious, Amara agreed. At the park, Marcus showed her a small video on his phone. It was footage from a hidden camera in the school hallway. Some of the girls who had bullied her were caught laughing about the photos, planning more harassment. "This is proof," Marcus said. "We can show the principal." Amara felt a surge of hope. Together, they went to the principal's office. The evidence was undeniable. The school promised stricter actions. But the hardest part was yet to come. Facing the emotional scars and learning to trust again. That night, Amara wrote in her journal, "I'm scared, but I'm fighting. For me." The next morning, Amara woke up feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The heavy burden she'd carried, the fear, the shame, the isolation, seemed to shrink just a bit, replaced by a flicker of hope. It was a strange feeling, like the first breath after being underwater for too long. She could almost believe things might get better. At school, the atmosphere was different too. The principal had held an assembly, making it clear that bullying would not be tolerated, and the girls caught on camera were facing disciplinary actions. Rumors swirled, but for the first time, Amara wasn't the center of the whispers. The tide was turning. Still, walking the hallways was nerve-wracking. The familiar glances and sneers hadn't disappeared overnight. Some of her classmates looked at her with thinly veiled resentment, others with sympathy, and a few with outright cruelty masked behind fake smiles. During lunch, Amara sat with Marcus and a small group of friends who had quietly come to her side over the past weeks. They talked about music, school projects, and silly TV shows. For a moment, she could forget everything else. "Amara," Marcus said quietly as they walked to their next class, "I know this is tough, but you're not alone. I'm here, and so are the others." She nodded, grateful but unsure if she could ever fully let her guard down again. That afternoon, Mrs. Harper, her English teacher, asked the class to write a personal essay about overcoming challenges. Amara stared at the blank page, the cursor blinking at her like a ticking clock. She thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the pain, the moments of courage. Slowly, words began to flow. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought where no one can see. They are silent wars waged inside, where fear and hope collide. I am learning to fight my own battle. When Amara finished, she felt a strange sense of relief. Writing was a way to speak without fear, to tell the truth on her own terms. Days passed. The school started enforcing new anti-bullying policies, and counselors offered more support. Amara met with the counselor regularly, each session chipping away at the walls she'd built around herself. One evening, as Amara was getting ready for bed, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "You think you're safe now? We're not done." Her heart pounded. Was this a threat from the girls? A cruel reminder that her nightmare wasn't over? She showed Marcus, who frowned. "We need to tell someone." Together, they reported the message to the school and the police. The school increased security and monitored online activity, promising to keep Amara safe. But the emotional toll was heavy. Amara's mom noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the silence that settled over her daughter. One night, her mom sat beside her. "You don't have to carry this alone." Amara shook her head, tears spilling down. "I just want it to stop." Her mom hugged her tight. "We will make it stop. Together." Slowly, Amara found strength in these moments. Tiny acts of kindness, steady support, and her own growing courage. Weeks later, at a school assembly about bullying and respect, Amara was invited to speak. Her voice trembled at first, but as she shared her story, her pain, her fight, her hope, the room grew silent. Faces that had once ignored or judged her softened with understanding. When she finished, a few students approached her, offering apologies and friendship. It wasn't a perfect ending. The scars would remain. But for the first time, Amara felt she had a future beyond fear. That night, writing in her journal, she wrote, "I am more than their pain. I am more than their cruelty. I am me." The days after Amara's speech passed in a blur of emotions. Some students who had once mocked her began to look at her differently. A few even offered quiet words of support. But others, stubborn and cruel, continued their whispers behind her back. One afternoon, Amara was walking home from school with Marcus when she noticed a few of the girls from the bullying group lurking near the corner store. Their eyes caught hers, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. "Don't let them get to you," Marcus said softly, noticing her tense posture. "They're trying to scare you." Amara nodded but felt the weight of their presence. It was like a storm waiting to break. That evening, Amara's mom sat her down. "Honey, I know this has been hard on you, but there's something important you need to hear." Amara looked up, curiosity mixed with caution. Her mom took a deep breath. "We're going to get you some legal help. What they're doing isn't just mean, it's illegal. Sharing those photos without your consent, the threats, the harassment, it's cyberbullying and harassment, and there are laws to protect you." Amara felt a flicker of hope mixed with fear. The idea of lawyers and courts was intimidating, but the thought of fighting back gave her a new sense of purpose. The next day, with Marcus by her side, Amara met with a lawyer specializing in cyber harassment cases. The lawyer listened carefully, taking notes, and assured Amara they could build a strong case. "We'll protect your rights," the lawyer said firmly, "and hold those responsible accountable." Back at school, the bullying simmered down, though the scars remained. Amara threw herself into her schoolwork and writing. Her English essays grew longer and more powerful, her way of taking control of her narrative. One afternoon, Marcus handed her a small notebook. "For your stories," he said with a shy smile. "Write whatever you want. I'm here to read." Amara smiled genuinely for the first time in a while. "Thanks, Marcus." But even as things improved, the fear never fully left her. The memory of those stolen photos, the betrayal by classmates she'd once trusted. It was a shadow that sometimes crept in when she was alone. Late one night, as Amara was journaling, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from a different number. "You think this is over? We're watching." Her heart raced. She showed Marcus immediately. "This has to stop," he said, fists clenched. "We'll get the police involved more." The next day, Amara and her mom met with the police detective assigned to her case. He was patient and understanding, asking detailed questions and promising to track down the senders of the threats. "It's going to be a process," he warned, "but we won't let them get away with this." Amara felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. School felt safer with the police involved, but the emotional wounds ran deep. Some nights she woke in tears, reliving every moment. One Saturday, her mom took her to a local support group for teens dealing with bullying and harassment. Sitting in a circle of strangers, Amara hesitated, then listened as others shared their stories. When it was her turn, she found herself speaking, softly at first, then with growing strength. "I felt invisible and broken," she said, "but I'm learning to fight back, to be seen." The group applauded gently. For the first time, Amara didn't feel alone. She began volunteering at the group, helping others find their voices. Her story became more than pain, it became a beacon for others. Months passed. The girls responsible for the bullying faced consequences at school and legal actions. Amara's courage inspired a school-wide campaign about kindness and respect. One afternoon, Marcus surprised her with a small gift, a bracelet with a charm shaped like a shield. "Because you're a warrior," he said. Amara smiled, her heart full. She knew the road ahead wasn't easy. The scars might never fully fade. But now, she had strength, friends, family, and a voice that couldn't be silenced. As she looked out her bedroom window that night, she whispered, "I am more than what they tried to make me. I am brave. I am whole." The morning sun streamed through the curtains, painting golden stripes across Amara's room. She sat at her desk, the familiar weight of her notebook grounding her as she scribbled new lines for her school essay. The words came easier now, flowing from a place of strength rather than pain. Her phone buzzed softly. A message from Marcus. "You ready for the game tonight? We all need you there." A smile tugged at her lips. The school's basketball games had become a place where Amara found real community. Somewhere she wasn't just a victim, but a friend, a teammate, a person. She glanced out the window toward the school stadium. The stands would be filled tonight. The buzz of cheering crowds, the pounding of sneakers on the court. It was her escape, her chance to breathe. At breakfast, her mom poured syrup over pancakes, her eyes warm but cautious. "Are you feeling okay about tonight? I know the past few months have been tough." Amara nodded. "I want to go. I want to be part of something good again." Her mom reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Just remember, no matter what happens, you're not alone." The hours until the game crawled slowly. When evening finally arrived, Amara dressed in her school colors. Her heart fluttered with nervous excitement. Marcus met her at the entrance with a grin. "You ready to kill it?" he asked. Amara laughed softly. "Let's do this." The gym was packed. Music pumped through the speakers as the players warmed up. Amara sat with the cheerleaders and band members, feeling the buzz of energy and camaraderie. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. From the back of the stands came a low murmur, then whispers, then unmistakable laughter. Amara's stomach twisted. She looked toward the source. A group of students from the bullying crowd stood clustered, smirking and pointing. Someone held up a phone, and Amara's breath caught. It was a new video, one she hadn't seen before. The screen showed her, candid and vulnerable, from moments she wished had stayed private. The crowd's laughter grew louder, some jeering. Tears burned behind Amara's eyes, but she held her head high. Marcus stood beside her, jaw clenched. "We're not letting this go on." Before Amara could respond, the principal's voice boomed over the loudspeaker, cutting through the noise. "Students, this behavior is unacceptable. Anyone caught harassing or bullying will face serious consequences." The group of bullies scattered, but the damage was done. After the game, Marcus walked Amara home, silent and tense. At her doorstep, Amara finally spoke. "Why do they keep doing this? I thought it was over." Marcus shook his head. "Sometimes people want power. They want to control the story." Amara nodded slowly. "I'm tired of being the story." Her mom was waiting inside, worry etched deep on her face. She pulled Amara into a tight hug. "We'll get through this," she whispered. That night, Amara lay awake, the video replaying in her mind. But beneath the fear was a new resolve. The next day, Amara and her mom met again with the lawyer. They discussed filing a restraining order and pursuing charges against the students spreading the video. "This kind of harassment can't be tolerated," the lawyer said. "You're setting an example for others who feel powerless." Amara felt a quiet pride grow inside her. School was harder now. Some teachers were more attentive, others avoided her gaze. Some friends stepped up, others drifted away, unsure how to act. One afternoon, Amara sat alone in the library, headphones in, trying to escape the noise. A voice startled her. "Hey, Amara, right?" She looked up. It was Clara, a girl from another grade who'd been quiet but kind. "I just wanted to say, I admire your strength. I know what it's like to feel alone." Amara smiled faintly. "Thanks. It means a lot." They began to talk slowly at first, then with ease. Clara became one of the first real friends Amara had made in months. That evening, Amara wrote in her journal, "Today, I saw a flicker of light in the darkness. I'm not just surviving. I'm starting to live." Days turned into weeks, and slowly, life began to change for Amara. Not because the pain disappeared, but because she found a way to carry it differently. She learned to set boundaries, to stand firm against the whispers and stares, and most importantly, to reclaim her own story. The school had started holding workshops on bullying and digital safety. Amara was invited to speak in front of a small group of students, her voice shaking at first, but growing stronger with each word. "I want you to know," she said, "that what happened to me, it doesn't define who I am. It's a part of my story, but not the whole story. We have to choose what kind of people we want to be." Afterwards, a few students approached her quietly, thanking her for her courage. It was a start. At home, her mother was her anchor. "I'm so proud of you, Amara. You've been through so much, and you're still here." Amara looked at her mom, the woman who had held her together in the darkest nights. "I'm not sure I would have made it without you." One evening, Marcus stopped by after practice. He handed her a folded paper. "What's this?" she asked. "Just something I wrote. Thought it might help." Amara unfolded it. It was a poem, rough but heartfelt, about resilience and hope. She smiled, feeling understood. Their friendship, once awkward and uncertain, was growing into something steady and real. They weren't perfect, but they were there for each other. Then, one day, Amara's phone buzzed with a message from Clara. "Big news! Our fundraiser for the anti-bullying campaign got approved. Want to help organize?" Amara's heart lifted. This was exactly what she needed, a chance to turn her pain into purpose. She and Clara spent afternoons planning, calling local businesses, designing posters. The school buzzed with energy as more students got involved. On the day of the event, the gym was filled with laughter, music, and a sense of unity. Amara stood on stage, looking out at the crowd of faces, some familiar, some new, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. After the event, as people lingered to talk and celebrate, Marcus found her again. "You did amazing," he said quietly. Amara nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "We all did." That night, Amara lay in bed, the poem Marcus gave her on her nightstand. Her phone lit up with messages from friends, encouraging words, and plans for the future. She thought about the long, hard road she had traveled, the betrayal, the pain, the fear, but also about the moments of kindness, the strength she discovered inside herself, and the people who stood by her. Her journey wasn't over. It might never be. But now Amara knew she had a voice, and she would use it. She whispered to the dark room, "I'm not broken. I'm just beginning."